Miss Lee and JB again, and we are continuing our series of interviews with writers from Killer Nashville. This is all writers talking about writing.
Today we have three novelists who were involved in public safety before becoming writers. We have James LEtoile, Bruce Robert Coffin, and Mark Hannon.
Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Jim LEtoile. I write police procedurals and thrillers, and I base that on working 29 years in the California prison system. I don't write dark prison noir, but those characters kind of stick with me, so they do help fuel the stories that I do write.
Okay, so Jim, what was the worst writing advice you ever got?
Oh, the worst writing advice? God, there's been so much. When I started, I would hear all these different things, and that's like, I've got to do it that way. I've got to follow that direction. And it just felt forced and artificial. I don't think there was any one thing. There was just a lot of things. You had to write a certain way, and you had to write at a certain time, and so many words, and it just didn't fit me and my style. So I had to find what worked for me and kind of listen to all the other advice, but just find what worked for me in my comfort zone.
So what's the greatest challenge that you faced as a writer?
Oh, the greatest challenge? I think initially it was the imposter syndrome. And, I still suffer from that. It's like you get halfway through a manuscript and this is going to be the book that everybody realizes you're a total fraud. And it finally works itself out. But I think getting that initial confidence level built up was probably the biggest challenge for me.
What was the most surprising thing that ever happened or was said to you as a writer?
Wow. There's been a lot of surprises. Working in the places where I used to work in the prison system, it was a completely different environment, as you can imagine. But I didn't expect the crime fiction community to be so open and welcoming, and it's not a competitive thing, and that initially blew me away because I thought everybody's vying for the same shelf space and all that kind of thing, and that's not the case at all. Everybody is genuinely happy for each other's success, and that, I think, was one of the biggest surprises that I found.
What are you working on now, and where did you get the idea?
I'm working now. I've got Face Agreed just came out in November. It's the first in a new series dealing with a female detective lead in Sacramento. Very competent gal. She's a little snarky and sarcastic, so she's fun to write. And she's dealing with her mom's issues with dementia, so she's trying to balance her life there. The sequel comes out in January. It's called River of Lies. And somebody's burning down the homeless camps in Sacramento. Emily's called out to investigate that. She finds that even the homeless have something that somebody wants.
And finally, what would be your best advice to someone who wants to be an author?
Oh, if they want to be an author, get involved in the community as early as you can. Whether it's Sisters in Crime, Mystery Writers of America, International Thriller Writers, come to conferences like Killer Nashville and VoucherCon. Get involved in the community even before you have something ready to publish. I waited too long to make some of those connections, and you can kind of feel isolated. It's an isolating kind of experience to begin with, but once you get that family and that community around you, it makes it a whole lot more enjoyable. And that's my advice, is get involved early.
And that's it. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate this.
My name is Bruce Robert Coffin, and I'm here at Killer Nashville.
And what do you write?
And I write 3 series. I'm the author of the Detective Byron Mysteries. I am a co-author of the Turner and Mosley Files with Lindy Walker, and I am currently working on my 3rd series, which will be released next year, called the Detective Justice Mysteries, about a Maine State Police detective named Brock Justice.
So, Bruce, what was the worst writing advice you ever got?
The worst advice probably came from a college professor, and I think the advice was supposed to be that I didn't have what it took to be a professional author, and that set me on a different path for my career, and so it took me 30 years to get back to writing, and as it turned out, I did have what it took to be a writer. Maybe not then, but later on I did.
Okay, what's the greatest challenge you've ever faced as a writer?
Probably self-doubt. I think every author goes through that imposter syndrome thing. It happens with less frequency now, thank God, but I think when you first start off, every time you actually get to a point where you feel like you've crossed another hurdle, somehow that creeps up again. For me, the first time was right after I'd gotten my first book published. I was scared to death the second one would fail. And then I think after losing my first series, right after COVID, they dropped my Byron series. I wondered, what will I do now? And that passed as well. So here I am working on book number 9. So.
What's the most surprising thing that ever happened or was ever said to you as a writer?
I think the most surprising, or maybe the most I really didn't know what I didn't know, like most of us when we enter into something, especially writing. I got advice from the woman who was my mentor named Kate Flora, who's a very accomplished mystery and true crime author. And Kate always said to me that she thought I had what it took, and she would say, be careful what you wish for. And because I had no idea what that meant, all I wished for was to be published. But she did say there would be all kinds of things that were attached with being a published author, like deadlines and that type of stuff. So Kate was a soothsayer, as it turned out.
So tell us again what you're working on now and what gave you the idea.
So right now the series that I'm co-authoring with Lindy Walker is called the Turner and Mosley Files. And Lindy really was the impetus behind this idea. We had both been writing procedurals and darker mysteries and that type of thing, and I think she had gotten a little old for her, and she was looking for something a little lighter, a little more fun, and maybe for a wider audience. And so the Turner and Mosley Files were our attempt to bring some of those fun action-adventure stories, like Clive Cussler stuff, Indiana Jones, National Treasure, bring those to the forefront and really update them with current people, like from today, like a young technology genius who suddenly turns billionaire, and a dashing diving instructor who has his own social media page and he's an influencer. And really they became the impetus for the story, and then somehow Lindy and I managed to bring these characters to life. And so far 2 books are out in the series, and the third one, called The Pirate's Secret, will be out in October. And at the moment I'm writing book 4, which is The Pharaoh's Tomb. And to say these books are anything short of fast paced would be dishonest.
And what would be your best advice to someone who wants to be an author?
Stick to it. Be stubborn. Never quit. Never let... Anytime someone tells you can't do something, even if it's you saying it internally, fight that. Push back against that and say, oh yeah, and just keep going. The only difference between published authors and unpublished is that the published authors never quit.
And that's it. Thank you so much. Bruce.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Hannon, and I write some historical fiction, I write crime novels, and I've written a number of short stories.
Okay, so Mark, what was the worst advice you ever got as a writer?
The worst advice I ever got as a writer was from a publisher who kept saying, stay with me, stay with me, stay with me. He's going to get to it, he's going to make a great book, and it never happened.
Okay, what was the most surprising thing that happened or was said to you as a writer?
The most surprising thing that happened to me as a writer was when I got a call out of the blue from a book club that wanted to buy 100 copies of my book right away, and they wanted me to sign them. And then they paid my way up to where they were so I could sign them, and then gave them out to their club members.
Wow.
Wow, cool. So how did you get the idea for whatever you're writing now?
What I'm writing now, I was doing research on the early crime in the 1990s in where most of my books take place, which is Buffalo, New York, and also how the most recent drug problems occurred. And then I spoke to a number of retired policemen about it, and all of a sudden it started clicking, and the plot started coming to me, and the characters.
And what would be your best advice to someone who wants to become a writer?
Read and then write. Read and then write, because the one feeds off the other, and it'll work out in the long run. It's the way a lot of great writers did it.
Thanks, Mark.
on the bird.